Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Asian Football Show. I'm Erfan, as always, joined by my good friends Arya and Kenta. But today we also have a very, very special guest. We're honored to be joined by former Iranian national team coach Afshin Ghotbi. Mr. Afshin, how are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. Happy Nowruz to everyone, and for me, greetings to everyone in Asia. So, a continent that I was born in, and I love from the deepest part of my heart.
Yeah. Kenta, Arya, how are you doing? Kenta?
Yeah, I'm doing well. It's Sunday here and just enjoying the weekend here.
And Arya?
I'm doing well as well. I'm very happy to have Mr. Ghotbi on for the podcast. It's an honor to have you on the show. Thank you so much for joining.
My pleasure.
So yeah, let's get started with the questions. Kenta, I believe you'll start us off.
Yeah, we're gonna dive straight into kind of your managerial career with your time with the U.S. men's national team. I kind of want to highlight that '98 World Cup when you were a part of that coaching team there when you end up playing Iran in the group stage. Can you talk to me about that experience at the world stage and facing Iran versus USA? I mean, that's quite a matchup for you.
I think it's really important. There are a lot of immigrants all around the world, and as an immigrant, when you're living in a different country that you are born, you always have a certain connection to your roots. There's a certain level of just deep love for your land of birth and mother country, and I think also you feel a certain connection at the same time, disconnection with where you were born. So for me, I came to America as a very young boy. I was 13 years old when I moved to California, and I'm a product of the street football in Tehran, and we used to have to dribble plastic balls in and out of cars and bounce them off people's doors and try to score between two bricks. So when you go to America, and then obviously football at that moment or soccer at that moment was not so popular and was a growing sport, and having to basically explain why we were kicking a ball instead of throwing it. And so I grew up in the whole school system of the United States, from junior high school, going on to UCLA. And the reason I share this with you is because it comes back to the fact that the head coach of the U.S. national team was Steve Sampson, who also was the assistant coach at UCLA, where I went to school, where I played football and soccer at when I was 17 all the way to 22. So Steve knew about my background. Of course, he knew me as a teenager. Then while I was playing, I was also coaching, and I started earning a living, a part-time living, from coaching children at age 14 all the way to 19, when I also became the coach of the women's team at UCLA. And then when I built an academy, it was the first full-time academy in Southern California. And it was an academy that was going all year round. No one in America at that moment was doing that. And maybe I was a little bit of a dreamer. I've always been a dreamer, and I kind of thought I can make a big contribution to the development of the game by bringing young boys and girls and training them and giving them the basics of the game. And I think part of it was also sharing my passion for the game. And I think it was very successful. And the product of it was the school started in 1988. It started with one student. It became very quickly to 1,000 students and 160 competitive players. And along with those young players were three very, very talented players: Peter Vainis, John O'Brien, and Joey DiGiamarino. John O'Brien, through our network, was able to be placed at Ajax of Amsterdam, had an 8-year career, and played 2 World Cups for the United States. Peter Vainis later on became a captain of UCLA, captain of in MLS of the LA Galaxy, and had a very successful career. And Joey DiGiamarino ended up playing in Leverkusen, and also where all three of them were picked for the Olympic team of USA. So the Olympic team was also coached with Clive Charles, God bless his soul. Clive was also the assistant to Steve Sampson. So as Clive Charles is the assistant, and as 3 of my academy players in the Olympic team. So basically, it's a great story because Clive Charles took this Olympic team with 3 of our academy players and went on to finish 4th in the world, losing the semifinal to Spain with Xavi and also Iniesta in that group. And by having that accomplishment and 3 of my players that were developed in my academy come into the U.S. Olympic team, of course it took the attention of Steve Sampson. And then Iran being in the group of United States, and Iran at that moment was an unknown in the international scene. So he felt that by bringing me as the scout and bringing me as someone that can support his national team for the World Cup would be very important. And obviously my dream has always been to work at the international stage. So I chose to take the job. And going to your question, it was an enormous emotional moment for me. I'm preparing the team to play against my birth country. I'm helping the U.S. national team in trying to create a tactical plan how to play against the Iranian team. And this was a very talented Iranian team. You had basically one of the best right back in Asia in Mahdi, who was constantly getting forward, constantly creating services necessary. You had a Karim Baghri in the middle of the park who was a box-to-box, probably at that moment the best midfielder in Asia. Then you had Khodadad Azizi, who was a very creative, could play between lines, could beat people on a dribble and come into danger area. And you had probably the best finisher in Asian football in Ali Daei. So that, in my opinion, created a massive challenge for USA playing against them. Then behind them, you had the 747 goalkeeper in Abedzadeh, who probably was at that moment the best keeper in Asia. So I constantly warned the players, the staff, that this is not going to be a very difficult game, and also the motivation factor for the Iranian players coming into the game. For me, the emotional moment is to walk in the stadium. It didn't hit me until I was in the stadium. And then I see so many Iranian fans on one cheek with a U.S. flag, on the other cheek with the Iranian flag. And I really connected with them because that's what I felt, growing up in a country, born in another country. So it was a very, very emotional, but also a very beautiful moment. And obviously you are a professional, you try to do your job, but your heart is divided because that's your country of birth. And also these are your people in the stadium that are cheering for that team. And then also you have the other side, your profession and the country that you were raised. So great, great moment in my life and also my career.
Yeah, you went on to kind of use that experience to have 2 stints at the World Cup with South Korea and the kind of the preceding World Cups. Can you talk to me in particular about that 2002 World Cup, knowing that it was hosted in South Korea, to make a semifinal in that competition, and just how significant that was for Asian football as a whole to have a host make it that far in the competition when they're also the hosts?
Well, I think I experienced the host World Cup '94 in the United States with Bora Milutinovic as the head coach, and I had a very good relation with Bora, and I knew him very well since 1991 because we started working together in certain programs. Part of my ambition with Bora was to learn from him. He was probably the most experienced international coach in the world scene, and probably one of the greatest football psychologists that came to the game at the international level. And so I learned the power of the World Cup and being hosted by a country, and how it inspired and also created a stage that the fans fell in love with the game and realized what a beautiful game this is and what a global game it is. And so when I took when I worked with Steve Sampson, and I'm trying to kind of bring the story together, because we were given a software called Master Coach that was developed in Norway. And it was the first desktop that was able to capture a moving picture, and so you can actually code events in a football game and then have a digital access to it and be able to show the players or use it as a tool to communicate with your players and your staff. So there were only two teams in the '98 World Cup that used Master Coach. One was the Norwegian national team by Olsen, and one was the U.S. national team by Steve Sampson and our team. And there was really no manual, so it was something that was just thrown at me because I had an engineering degree at UCLA. And so I was able to kind of figure out, how do I apply technology to football? It was really not done before. So because of that, I became one of the few in the world that was quote unquote known as the analyst, and as someone that can actually use technology to coach players and coach teams and prepare teams. So Mr. Hiddink, through his assistant Pim Verbeek, I found out that that's possible. So he invited me to Hong Kong in 2000, year 2000. I believe it was December of 2000. And he asked me to join the team for a week because he wanted to see what I can do for his team. And obviously, there was a language barrier for Hus to communicate with the Korean players. And then he saw an enormous tool to be able to use a laptop. At that time, technology improved, and we were able to use a laptop. And Sports Tech, which now is owned by Huddle, was able to use a laptop to break images. So when he saw what I can do and the power that I had with a camera and with a computer and the images that we can create and the models, training models, game models, so he was very interested to use that, and he wanted to be one of the first managers in the world to be able to use that in the world stage. And that's how I was included in the coaching staff of Korean national team. And the experience for me was phenomenal. We were able to prepare a team traveling all over the world, especially in this last 6 months building up to the World Cup, from the Gold Cup in the United States, going to Uruguay for a friendly, then to Spain to play several friendly games in spring, and then going back to Korea and seeing every day that passed as we got closer to the World Cup, the enthusiasm, the noise, the colors, the sounds grew. And it was just a burst of emotion for the Korean national team. The country just turned red with every day that went on. And then, of course, the team wasn't doing so well until about 3 months before the World Cup, when we started playing some home games and a very good showing against France. I think we lost 2-3, a good showing against England, and then the World Cup started. And everyone was waiting for that first game, and then boom, against Poland, 2 fantastic goals, and then the team, the fans start believing, the players start believing, and with every game, we started, I think, improving, and the result against Portugal put the team in the second stage. And I think some players and fans would have been satisfied with that, but I know Mr. Hiddink and the coaching staff, we wanted more. We wanted to get more out of the World Cup. We wanted to go further. And the Italian game was very, very, for me, very exciting to see, because it was a game that we could have easily been down 0-2. We were outplayed in the early stages. But as the game went by, the Italians dropped back and just wanted to secure a result. And that allowed us to get more forward and bring more balls into the danger areas. And 2 fantastic goals, especially the Anjuwan goal that I still can visualize, where Anjuwan jumps over Maldini and nicks the ball with his head, kisses it by Buffon's reach. And I think the country, Asia, just blew. And it gave hopefully a lot of confidence to the Asian continent and Asian countries that everything is possible in the game, and it's just a matter of having vision, having a strategy, having the investments, having the infrastructure, a domestic league, a national team program that creates a group of players, a generation that can that can do big things.
Between those two stints that you had with the South Korean national team, I know you took a couple assistant manager roles. One with the LA Galaxy back home, where you went to college in UCLA. So you talk about Landon Donovan, you talk about all the big names that were on that LA Galaxy team. But you also spent your time in the K League for a few years with Suwon Samsung Bluewings. Can you talk to me about that experience of coaching in Korea? What that league was like back then when you were there, and also just how much that league has grown since 2004, I guess. I mean, it's been a while, but how much that league has grown since then.
Well, when I worked closely with the Korean national team in 2002, and as we prepared and I stayed in Korea, I fell in love with Korea. And Korea became almost the second home for me because of just the how dynamic the nation is, how hardworking the people are, and the football players, how willing they are to work for a manager, for a coach, and I think it was a no-brainer for me because Suwon Samsung at the time was one of the biggest teams in Asia. Kim Ho was one of the heroes of Korean football and had developed Suwon and Samsung to be a continental force. I think the Samsung ownership, they wanted to modernize their team and they wanted to replicate the success of the Korean national team and bring that flavor into the Suwon Samsung team. So they approached me and I really wanted to stay there because I just loved working there and working with the Korean players. And right after the World Cup, there was so much enthusiasm for the game that every stadium, every seat was filled. You had brand new stadiums, you had very enthusiastic fans, you had very talented players that really wanted to achieve big things. So it was a wonderful experience for me to be in that environment of the K-League and seeing what a difficult league it is because of just that the physical demands of that league, the speed of the game and the transitions from attack to defense was very, very high at that moment in Asian football.
Yeah, I mean, you spent all those years in East Asia. Then you made a shift over to the West when you got an offer from the Persian Gulf Pro League. You got an offer from Persepolis, and that was your first role as head coach. So I want to know what you first thought when you received the offer. Obviously, you became the champions in your first season, receiving the Manager of the Year. So talk to me about that experience and managing in Iran.
I was at the time with as you may know, Pim Verbeek and I created one of the greatest friendships in football, and he was my mentor. He was my brother. I loved him with my entire heart because he was a giant for me as a human being and as a coach. And so football fans in Asia know that he had a great career and he passed fighting cancer for several years. And God bless his soul, and I love his family as my own. Him and I were working together with Dick Advocate for the 2006 World Cup. And after the 2006 World Cup, which I think we had a fantastic showing, drawing against France, at that moment, probably the best team in the world, beating Togo and losing a heartbreaker to Switzerland. The federation asked Pim, myself, and Hong Yeon-bo, which is now the present Korean national team manager, to kind of take over the entire national team program from the senior team to the Olympic team to the Asian Games team. And that allowed us to really roll up our sleeve and try to create the foundation for long-term success of the Korean national team. So Pim and I took the team to the Asian Cup with Hong Yeon-bo, and we're unfortunate to lose in penalties to Iraq, which was the eventual champion. And while we were in the tournament, and as the tournament was coming to an end, I was approached from Iran, and the president of Persepolis at the time to be the coach of Persepolis. And Persepolis was my club as a youth. I loved Persepolis, and I had not been back to Iran for 30 years. I had not seen my mother which my father and I divorced when I was 7 years old. And when we left America, I had not seen her. I had not seen her family. I had not seen my childhood friends. And here was an opportunity to be a manager of one of the biggest clubs in Asia, and the club of my childhood. So, I mean, there was no brainer. Pim at that time wanted to take a family break and go home, and later on went on to coach Australia. So it was a perfect moment for me to go on my own and to be a manager at a high level for the first time. So I took the opportunity. It was I think to me it was a no-brainer again. And sometimes the universe directs us to places where we have to be. And I returned, very emotional again for me, flying. I can still remember the flight going from Amsterdam, going to Tehran. And I was sitting in the plane, and people already kind of knew that I was going to be the coach of Persepolis. So conversations were going on in the airplane, and I land and I see an enormous number of people, and with my mom there. So you can imagine what that felt like. And then the team starts. The team maybe at that moment maybe we didn't have the best selection in the Iranian league. I think Sepahn had probably a better selection. But we had a fantastic group dynamics, especially with the president of the club, Mr. Kashani, who I think did a wonderful job in helping me integrate myself in the team and creating the atmosphere that allowed me to have a very collective group. The team went on 18 games without losing. We were playing some very attractive and attacking football, and you could see the fans in the entire nation got behind this team, and it became the people's team. And from 20,000 fans, it became to 100,000 fans in the stadium. And obviously that season, the FIFA deducted 6 points from us. And basically, normally the competition should be over. Our dream to be champion, it probably will not be possible. And I still remember the first training after they deducted 6 points. I went on to the players and I looked them right in the eye and I said, we are still going to be champion. And I think that confidence really helped our players unite, and actually the task was so impossible that inspired the best out of the group. And we were able to, in the last game of the season, in added time, to score the winning goal to be champion against Sepahn. And interesting enough, the manager of Sepahn was the Brazilian Vieira that was the coach of Iraq, that eliminated us in the Asian Cup in penalties when I was the assistant of Korea. So it felt wonderful to have that kind of a result in that moment against him, and also for the Persepolis fans and Persepolis.
Sweet revenge, right? Sweet revenge. Yeah. So after a season at Persepolis, you then moved on to the biggest job in Iran. You're the coach of the Iranian national team, coach of Team Melli. Was that something you had thought about before, to coach the Iranian national team?
I think anyone that goes into the coaching business and a career dreams about not only coaching at the highest level, but coaching a national team. And then you add the icing on the cake is coaching the country that you were born in. So to be given that opportunity is obviously a dream of your life. As a player, my dream was to play in the national team. That dream didn't flourish. So to be able to do it as a manager, again, is a no-brainer. You decide, doesn't matter the situation, doesn't matter what challenges you have ahead. You take it on immediately. And Iran was not in a good place at that moment. The team was in, I think, 4th position, only 3 games to go. And those 3 games had to be played in 12 days, 2 away from home, sandwiched with 1 home game. And my challenge became more difficult because there was a lot of political unrest in the streets and in the country that kind of divided the group going to the last game of the qualification, which was against South Korea away from home. And even with that, at 81st minute, we are winning 1-0, and I think we had a chance to score the second goal before the equalizer, and the game ended 1-1. And AFC at the time did not play the final games due to the time difference and vastness of Asia at the same time. So then we had to wait several hours for Saudi Arabia to play against North Korea. And that game, if the result would have been one winning and the other losing, we still would have had a chance to go out in the playoff for the World Cup. But with them drawing, we were eliminated. And it was probably one of the biggest disappointments of my life, because I really wanted that World Cup for the people of Iran, and I felt that it could have been the result and I think achievement that would have united the country again after the problems within the election.
As you mentioned, not qualifying to the 2010 FIFA World Cup was heartbreaking for us all. So we're then entering into the 2011 Asian Cup, where Iran had some sort of expectations. We unfortunately went out to South Korea yet again. They always come back, and a heartbreaking loss in extra time. So tell us what that experience was like, and what were the expectations actually for Iran at that tournament?
Well, I think there are exterior expectations and there are interior expectations. My expectations personally and within the team is always to be successful and win and be champion of the Asian Cup. I think after so many years that has not been achieved. I felt that we approaching the Asian Cup, we improved with each day and each month and each game. And when we came to the World Cup, even though we had changed the whole generation, and part of my whole, after the 2010 World Cup, when I continued to be the manager of the national team, is how do I bring a new generation to the national team and prepare the team for the next World Cup? So that was really the strategy. So we brought a lot of young players in, like Ansari Fahad, Haj Safi. So we tried to change the generation. And really being a national team manager is all about timing. If you go at a timing where you have a golden generation that you have access to, then it makes your job a lot easier. Having to change a generation, having to deal with all the political unrest within the country made my job incredibly difficult. The national team at that moment was not the people's team anymore, because those various things that happened in that particular election, the fans, the people kind of separate themselves and categorize the national team as not the team of the people. So that affected psychologically the team, and I think anyone that watched the 2022 World Cup, they also saw the same thing. A fantastic team going into the World Cup, disjointed, not really supported. Players are unsure. Are they playing for the shirt? Are they playing for the people? Are they playing for the country? And I think that's the challenge of the Iranian national team. The football has too much political influence, and politics and football, when they get mixed, it makes it very difficult for players and coaches and people within the team to have the right concentration and focus. And I believe that's, if we can correct that for the Iranian national team, we have enormous talent. It's a football country. It's one of the best in Asia and probably one of the top 10 teams in the world if they have the right political landscape around them and the concentration that they need. Even with the lack of infrastructure, you look at what Iran achieves every time they play because of the sheer love, passion for the game and the talent of the Iranian players. So going to that Asian Cup, I think if we had one of the strikers that the Iranian national team has at this moment, we would have probably gone much further. We just didn't have the quality up top, and Sarifat was still too young to really be the differentiator in those big games. And I believe that's what hurt us at the end. Defensively, we took only one goal against Iraq going in the first round. We were the only team in that competition that won all 3 games in a very difficult group, Iraq, North Korea, Emirates. So I feel we could have played better, I think, the South Korea game. I felt we missed the cutting edge. We were not good enough in the final third. I think we didn't create enough chances to win the game. But it was a 0-0 game going late into the after 90 minutes, still 0-0 going in his first overtime, and a shot that was once maybe in the life of a shot that went in a goal. Because I think Rahmati at the time was a fantastic goalkeeper. It takes a very special shot to beat him. And then we couldn't really overcome that in the later stage of the overtime.
You afterwards joined Shimizu in J-League. You were there for a couple of years, replacing Hasegawa Kenta. What a club legend at Shimizu and what he had done for that club for so long as a player and then a manager following that. Can you talk to me about kind of the experience of J-League culture, maybe even comparing it with your time in K-League? And also, I have to ask about Freddie Lundberg. I mean, he had that very short time at the club, and if you can tell me about what that whole saga, if you want to call it, was like for you as a manager.
I think after the Asian Cup, obviously, I think coaching national teams is very different than coaching club teams. When you work with a club team, you have the players every day. You can actually improve players, develop players, and I felt that by having the opportunity to go back to the Asian Cup, I was still a young manager. I wanted to work every day on the pitch. So it was something I wanted to do. Also, Pim had worked in Japan, and I had visited him several times when he was coaching in Japan. And it's a country I've always wanted to work at. And I feel that I still believe it's probably one of the most organized leagues in the world. It's probably in the level of football, it's probably the most underrated league in the world. It's a fantastic league, fantastic players. The competition, the organization is the highest level. So when I took the team, I was very unfortunate because Hasegawa, when he left, and the roster that the team had available to it, even while I was in the Asian Cup in December and early January, the moment they played, I think in the final of the tournament, Empress Cup, all of a sudden most of the players left. And the club didn't expect them to leave. They were in negotiation for their next stage, and all of a sudden they all left. I arrived. It's a complete a team with mostly second-team players, and several very, very fantastic veteran players like Shinji Ono, Takahara, Eddie Bosner. So we had to really kind of rebuild. And as we were trying to rebuild, even in the friendly games, we were getting hammered. We were just not good enough to compete in the J-League level. Then, unfortunately, we had the disaster, the natural disaster with the earthquake, tsunami, and the league being suspended for several months. And that really hurt J-League. Fans were not coming into matches. And that's the reason, in a way, we felt that by bringing Freddie Lundberg and having him join Shinji Ono, we can create the buzz, create the enthusiasm to bring fans back in the stadium. And it worked. Every game sold out the moment Freddie arrived. I mean, imagine having Shinji Ono and Freddie Lundberg playing underneath as attacking midfielders, and Takahara playing on top. And I think the team played phenomenal football. I still remember in the stadium there was a home game we played against the former champion of Nagoya, and we win the game 2-0, and we were phenomenal in that game. And unfortunately we couldn't repeat that due to the age of our phenomenal players and veteran players, and having the injuries that they were suffering and going through. And then the rest of the club was a lot of young players. I stayed at Espals for 3.5 years, and I believe 2012 was one of our best seasons, and we built the youngest team in the history of the league. Mostly young players like Ishige, Genki Ome, Takagi, we played some exciting football and going to the finals of the Nabisco Cup and losing in overtime to Kashima were some of the highlights of my period in Japan. And another thing that I think very few people remember or really recognize is how many players we were able to develop and sell on to European football. Genki was sold to Dusseldorf. Alex Broske from Australia went on to Al Ain in Emirates for a very massive transfer. Eddie Bosner was sold to Suwon Samsung. Bare, the Brazilian player, was sold to a Chinese club. And this brought a phenomenal amount of revenue to the club. And because of the Japanese football calendar, a lot of the movement were in the summer window. So in a period where you are in the middle of the season and you're losing one of your key players. So I think I'm really proud of what we tried to do at Espals, and I'm really proud of the football we played, and I think some of the young players that were developed there are still shining in the J League.
I gotta ask a follow up here because you talked about the natural disaster in 2011. So you were there in Japan, in the country, when the women's team went on to win the World Cup, and that impact of kind of the country rallying around the sport. Did you see? I mean, I'm sure you witnessed it to an extent, but how significant was that from an outsider kind of looking in the country to have a national team to kind of rally behind for these people to give some kind of, I guess, hope for the country when something so tragic happened just a few months prior to the World Cup then?
I think anytime there is success, as we saw with the Korean national team finishing fourth in the world, when the women's national team of Japan winning the World Cup, it was a celebration of Japan and I think also the power of women. And I think that's really important that especially in Asia, as women are fighting for their own rights and fighting for their own place in the society, fighting for their place in sports, I think for that kind of success really is a boost of energy and confidence for women. And obviously we even though I'm not Japanese, I celebrated. I knew the assistant coach Jun Nakamura, who's an old friend of mine. So I'm really proud of that championship, and I'm really proud of Japanese women and Japanese in general. They're very humble, they're very subtle but they're so talented, are phenomenal. And as first team qualifying for the World Cup, how many World Cups have they qualified consecutively? That just shows the quality of Japanese football and Japanese players and Japanese Federation.
You went on to have a pretty, I guess, brief stint at Buriram United, who are currently in the quarterfinals of ACL this year, ACL Elite. Can you talk to me kind of about that experience of coaching in the Thai League and what that was like for you?
Buriram is the best team in Thailand, and obviously what the ownership has done, the stadium they built, the investment they've made in the game, and my experience in Thailand was superb because of just the kindness of Thai people, how the whole culture, how players are so coachable, so technical, and how much they want to learn. Thai food, everyone loves Thai food. I think the challenge for me was, as a manager, I like to have autonomy. I like to have my own way of building a team and selecting players and playing the game. And unfortunately for me, the ownership wanted to have a lot of influence in the selection and influence in the way we play, who plays. And I think that's where I couldn't really stay there, because I felt, and we had those conversations within the ownership, that I feel as a coach I'm an artist. I want to have the freedom to do what I need to do to create a team. And that was not really the option at Buriram. And I have enormous respect of what they've achieved and what they continue achieving. They're a fantastic football club, and their fans of Buriram are amazing everywhere. I was at a hospital in Amsterdam visiting my mother-in-law, and a gentleman walks, and he's had just an operation, and then he has a shirt, and then there's a Buriram logo on his shirt. And I look at it, I said, what a world, what a small world. I meet chefs at various Thai restaurants and they're Buriram fans. So wow, what a fantastic club.
In 2016, you were then appointed as the manager of, I'm probably going to butcher the name, I apologize, Sangzhou. I think that's how you say it. They've had name changes. Um,
No, I think
and
it's the club is Shijiazhuang.
yeah,
Shijiazhuang, yes. And the city of Shijiazhuang, which is in Hebei. And Shijiazhuang is what an amazing city, what an amazing fan base. I love that city, I love the fans, great fans. I cried with those fans. They're so passionate about the game and yes, and I went there and I had a fantastic period with that club, especially promoting him in my third season there.
yeah, I was going to get into the promotion and how you felt. You've answered that question very, very well. Another question I want to ask too, and it was also a question that was coming up within the fans themselves that are going to be watching this podcast is, well, China had a very big football project a few years ago. Tons of big name players were going there, notably Oscar. These top types of players going into China. Fast forwarding to today, where we can see the Chinese league kind of struggling. Would you say the football project in China has failed? And if so, why and how?
I think failure and success, it depends how you measure them, right? So, has it failed? I don't think I would call it failure because I think Chinese football has instilled a certain level of love and history in the country, and because of it, there are so many young Chinese players that are playing the game, and so many fans that love the game, and I think if you put good football in front of the Chinese fans, you'll sell out the stadium, and if Chinese national team starts getting results, Chinese football will explode with enthusiasm and support. I think the C word is there's a C word. There's a couple of C words I can use that I think it's slowed down maybe the development of the game in China. COVID is one, and I think what government has identified and stories and the news we've read, corruption, and I feel that the government has come in and trying to clean up the game, and I believe that once the game has been cleansed and cleaned and become a little bit as an industry properly organized, then I do believe that Chinese football will come back just because of sheer quality, numbers. I mean, there's some fantastic Chinese players, and there's some really good football teams in China. And in my period, I witnessed some great football in the Super League, and promoting Shijiazhuang into the Super League was really a special moment in my career. And I have great memories and fond memories from it.
Afterwards, in between your two stints in China, you had a return to the Iranian league. You went to Foolad Khuzestan for a season. So tell me about that experience, and more specifically, I want to know since the previous decade, since when you managed 12 years ago at Persepolis, how much did the league change, and how was the state of it compared to back then?
Well, one of the reasons I went to Foolad was because I was approached by the president and I was approached by Foolad as they were trying to open a brand new stadium, and the people of Khuzestan were having a lot of challenges in their life. There's enormous poverty, even though it's one of the richest areas of the world, and it was almost like they played my love for the people of Iran as a way of luring me back to come back to Iran to coach Foolad, and to be honest, I wanted to do it. I wanted to do something more for the people because I felt that my time with Persepolis and the Iranian national team, I had not completed what I wanted to complete. So I decided that this would be maybe a way that I can give back by going to a club that was literally going to the bottom of the table. They were struggling. They wanted to create a new stadium, and they wanted to get through football. They wanted to make people happy. So that kind of plays to my heart, and I just said, okay. So I went back, and I still remember it. The morale was very low. The players had no confidence, and basically in a week, and I did it through just a lot of hugs and a lot of singing in the locker room. I brought all the players together, and we were able to create a fantastic atmosphere very quickly and give them a very simple game model. And we went in, and I think people can remember, against Tractor, away from home in front of 65,000 people, with a fantastic result of winning the game 2-1. And then the team went on and earned 10 points out of 12 possible, including beating Persepolis, who had not lost for almost 2 years, with Bronco as the coach of the Persepolis, and we won at home. And I felt that we had transformed the football club, and the fans got behind it. But unfortunately, the team had a lot of problems, financial problems, management problems off the field, and we couldn't really sustain it toward the end of the season. And there were conversations for me to come back, but I didn't want to come back to the same kind of management in the front office and the chaos that I experienced in that time. So then I stepped back, and then of course the opportunity came back to go back to Shijiazhuang by the owners and by the president, and I took that.
Yeah, and how much did the Iranian league change from your first stint?
I think the Iranian league, for me, the passion has never changed. I think the sophistication, the tactical sophistication of the teams, we see a gradual improvement. Maybe not as fast as we like to see. I think individually, the number of quality players in the league has grown and improved. I saw that the younger the players are, the better they are, because the exposure that they've had to the game has grown. Obviously, social media starts playing more of a part, and that gave an opportunity to create more hashiyeh, as they call it in Iranian football. So I think just more noise, more quality in what I saw in the evolution of the league.
In 2022, Vancouver FC then becomes the latest team to get added in the Canadian Premier League. So how did it feel to become the first, and still the first ever manager of the club?
Well, this was a complete different project than anything that I've done before, other than going back to my early 20s when I built an academy, AGSS. So because of COVID, I was so isolated away from my family. I mean, I think people don't realize, first of all, how difficult it is while COVID, to manage a team. But then add that to go to China and manage a team during COVID. The amount of isolation and being in a bubble, not seeing your family for months on. And so in that period of 2019, I lost my best friend, Pim Verbeek, to cancer. In 2020, I lost my ex-wife to cancer. My stepmom and my dad were aging. I had not seen my daughters. I had not seen my wife. So basically what I wanted to do is take a break after I left Chengdu, which was the Shijiazhuang team that changed names and changed city. I wanted to take a little bit of break to see my family. So I came to Southern California, and I was spending a lot of time with my children and with my parents, my wife. And I wanted to find a project that allowed me to, in this stage in my career and my life, to be closer to them. So I was trying to find a team closer to in Southern California. And the project of Vancouver was presented to me. The ownership is a former player, Rob Friend, who played at Frankfurt. And I tried to bring him to Japan when I was at Espals. And so my relationship goes back to him back in 2012 when he was a striker in the Bundesliga, and I tried to bring him to our club. And that didn't happen, but we built a friendship. So it gave me an opportunity to be uh, working with someone that I have history with in Rob Friend. It gave me an opportunity to be close to my family, but also it gave me an opportunity to build something from basically ground zero. And to have a club with no players, no staff, no stadium, really nothing. In November 2nd, I believe I was announced, and having to start April of 2023, the team was a challenge that I kind of wanted to have, and I think now we've built a club that basically wants to be a factory for football players, to grow the game in Canada, and to grow international players. Basically, what I was doing back at the AGSS when the John O'Briens and Pete Vaginisses and Joey DiGiamarinos were growing up. And already, in a very short time, we have Grady McDonald, Club Bruges bottom just recently at age 16. Then James Cameron at Colorado Rapid bought, that's going in, playing in MLS Next, and will probably play in the MLS first team of Colorado. And several youth international players that already we developed. And I think presently for this season, which starts April 6th in Vancouver as a home game against York, we have probably 10 players that in the next 2 windows, I believe, will be sold and transferred out to clubs in Europe or around the world. And I think that's something to be proud of, to build something from zero and become the factory of football players in North America. And I believe that if we carry on this course, we're gonna be very successful in building a lot of international players and maybe changing a little bit and transforming Canadian football.
Yeah, there have been notable Asian players that have actually passed through Vancouver FC. Off the top of my head, I can think of Arya Nourizadeh, Kim Jae Kwok, I think Gabriel Bitar, who played for Lebanon at the Asian Cup, if I'm not mistaken, and I believe a youth player by the name of Kurosh Jamshidi. I'm not sure if he ever played a game for the senior team. Tell us more about them, and why did you decide to take these players into the team and to include them?
Well, Vancouver is a very diverse city. We have an enormous amount of pieces of the world all around us. I think about 40,000 Persians are living from North Vancouver, West Vancouver, through Vancouver in the Valley. We have a massive Korean population, Chinese population. Almost in every part of the world is kind of represented in Vancouver. So we wanted to be part of this community. We wanted to represent the demographic of this community. So, and there are a lot of first, second generation Canadian Asian players, Canadian Africans that are living within Canada and in the BC area. So as we're doing combines and various tryouts and looking at local leagues, we identified players from various communities that we invited to our team, and I know Kwak is playing at this moment in an MLS Next team. We have I think Kurosh was called into the under-20 national team of Iran, very talented player, and then also we have Nima, I believe, is coaching now, which I'm really proud of, and I feel like, okay, we can't build a player, we build a coach, and I also think that at this moment Gabby's playing at York and he's playing still for the Lebanese national team. So this present team in 2025 also have a lot of first, second generation immigrants that are playing for us, and that's really Canada. You look at Canadian national team who play against USA today. Later on, and there are so many first, second generation Canadian players that are representing Canada. So it's kind of exciting. World Cup is coming to Canada to be again close to where World Cup will be held, and I believe it will transform the game and it will grow the game, and hopefully football will capture the heart of the Canadians after the World Cup in 2026.
Zooming out a little bit, and going through the whole league itself, we've actually got a few Iranian players or from Iranian descent playing in the CPL. I can think of, I think the most famous one would be Alessandro Hojabrapur. and quite recently Sami Keshavas, who just signed a pro contract for Pacific FC, as an example. Do you think the CPL would be a great place for the Iranian diaspora within Canada to enter for their professional careers?
I think CPL is a phenomenal league to create the pathway for young, talented players from any descent to come into, because it's one thing to play youth football. It's another thing to be a player in your late teens or early 20s where you don't get first team games. But I think CPL has been designed to give those players an opportunity to play first team football. And by playing first team football, they grow as players and they develop faster. And I think also, even we see it in Europe, there are players that they go from under 21 and they can't break into the first team because of the expectations, because of the level and the differences in the level. And I think a lot of those players get kind of lost in within the cracks, and they stop playing the game. So I do believe CPL provides that opportunity. And you mentioned some of the Persian players that are playing. I think we have now 2 Persian players that I can't name because they have not been signed yet, but they will be signed shortly. That will be part of our Vancouver FC team. We have 5 million Persians around the world, and they're all, most of the boys and girls are playing football. So I think it's no brainer that Persians will break into various leagues and various countries as professional players. And I think in Canada, we're going to see more and more of them.
As you mentioned, there's going to be games in Vancouver for the 2026 FIFA World Cup. Are you expecting anything out of that World Cup? Will you be watching the games, of course? And I guess if you can also add your 2 cents on just Asian football as a whole here in 2025, what would it be?
Well, I think for me personally, I love World Cups. My experiences at the 3 World Cups that I've been with, once with United States, twice with Korea, and basically 8 minutes away from being in the 4th World Cup again with Iran, I feel that it's one of the greatest events on the planet. I think there are no sporting events that even come close, because basically you bring the whole world into one country or several countries for a 30-day window. And the first round is played within 10 days. And imagine teams, players that work 4 years to get there, and then within 10 days they're either in the next phase or they're out. And the whole planet is watching. And if anyone gets a chance to travel just to be in the country that the World Cup has been hosted, I really recommend that, because it's okay. The game is played for 90 minutes, and there are games being played all over the particular country. But it's what's going on in the streets, building up to the game, and after the game, and the days building up to the next game. I remember the bus ride through Paris with the U.S. team as we entered Paris to play our first game. And as the bus ride is going, there were thousands of American fans with American flag. I remember when I was in Korea 2002, we are in Seoul, we're going to play Germany in the semifinal, and outside the hotel, it's all red. Through the streets, it's everyone with red. The noise, the color, phenomenal. You get goosebumps still thinking about it. So I believe downtown Vancouver will be the same. And I still, the Canadians don't believe me, because I tell them, they said, well, World Cup is coming, but we really don't feel it yet. I said, just wait. When the World Cup comes, downtown Vancouver will become the world. And so I'm quite excited about seeing the game and the power of the game change the whole demographic of the country and the interest of the people in the country towards the sport. Going to your question about Asia, Asia is one of the greatest continents in the world, and Asia, in my opinion, has so much potential in the game. If federations and leagues in those countries can invest in the youth, in the infrastructure of developing the youth, the domestic league's job is to identify the talent, develop the talent, feed it to the national team, and then allow these players to raise the interest with their performances of the fan base. And if teams play well, I think winning is contagious. It will bring interest to the sport by the population, because almost all people love their country. So Japanese, whenever the Japan national team plays, they're wearing the Japan uniform. Koreans do the same. The Iranians do the same. And I think it's natural, as the national teams play better football and the game grows, so will the fan base.
Now we're gonna zoom in into current Iran, right? The current Iranian football scene. As you're probably were aware, there's been lots of criticism of Iranian football from fans, from the diaspora to the country itself, over the quality of football that has been played in the past few years. I know you kind of briefly mentioned some of the problems, but for you, what is the main issue with Iranian football, at least currently, as a national?
I think the game is a mirror of the society. So basically, if there are challenges within the society, either be it economic, be it social happiness, it kind of reflects into the national team. And I think we have some of the greatest players in the history of Iranian football playing the game in various teams around the world. From goalkeeper all the way to the top, we have some of the best talent in Asia. The team is winning games, and people still are not happy. So when the team is winning and people are not happy, that is problematic. So how do we solve that? I don't think there's a magic wand that will solve it. I think it's very deeply rooted, and what we need to do is really focus on how do we separate the sport from politics? How do we create a league where there's healthy competition and there's parity within the teams? How do we invest in the infrastructure where the stadium lights don't go out like in the middle of a game? How do we support the players so the players don't feel they're torn to pick their country versus a political group? I think these are, it's not a challenge one coach can change or any coach can change. I think these are, I think as a population, as a country, as a whole, those are things that have to be changed. And I'm not sure if they're going to be changed in the recent years ahead of us, to be honest.
Yeah, the current Iranian national team coach is Amir Ghalenoei, a very successful coach in Iran, a five-time league champion. I think it was a year or so ago where on live TV, he sent you an invitation to join the national team. I know you've called him the Sir Alex Ferguson of Iranian football before. So tell me more about that invitation. Did it reach anywhere, or is something going to happen?
Well, I think first of all, it's really important. How do we measure good coaches? How do we decide if a coach is good or coach is bad? I think coaching profession as a whole is changing because it's become more managing of people, managing of situations, managing group dynamics, managing media, managing politics, managing many, many factors, especially managing a national team. I think Mr. Ghalenoei has been very successful at the club level because he really knows how to succeed in the Iranian sports culture. He knows what kind of players he needs to bring in, what he needs to do, how he needs to behave to be able to get results. And I think we have to congratulate him, even with this particular national team. Maybe he's not playing the style of football everybody wants to see. Maybe he's not so sophisticated in a tactical way, but he's getting results, he's winning. And at the end of the day, a lot of coaches at this moment are being judged by the results. I think he has to improve going into the World Cup, the tactical sophistication of the team, the preparation of the team, surround himself with more experts that in different fields, either sports science, tactical coaches that can come in and support him. Because I think he really knows how to manage the Iranian players. He's shown that he can do it. And as long as the federation supports him as the manager, I think the nation and the players need to support him so he can have success. About my personal involvement, yes, he had the conversation in the media. He didn't speak to me beforehand, but he spoke in the media that he was interested for my involvement. And I think maybe it's because he felt that my popularity within the people, by including me with the team, he can get the people behind his team. Maybe he felt that my international experience can help his team. I haven't had these personal conversations with him to know the reason why he brought my name out in the media. But obviously, I want to always be a soldier for Iranian football, support Iranian players, support the Iranian teams. But I don't like being used that way, to be honest. I don't like having my name, my reputation used for the benefit of someone else. I think that's not fair. That's not right. So let's see what the future brings. I still feel that even though I'm 61 years old, I feel like very young in my heart, and I feel very still motivated to work in the game. I believe that I'm the best version of myself at 61 because of the life experiences, because of the football experiences all over the world. And I think that's something that's sometimes overlooked. People don't realize, why is Ancelotti so successful wherever he goes? One, he's a good coach, but as he coaches more and more, as he lives longer and longer, his experiences allows him to be more calm, take better decisions because of the wisdom he gains through all his years and all these days. So I do believe national team coaches need to be older because they need more life experience to manage the different situations.
Moving on to some fan questions. Now, originally I wanted to ask you what your favorite Iranian food was, but I'm going to make it a bit harder for you. I'm going to ask you, you've been in Japan, China, Korea, Thailand, and Iran. Out of those five, what is your favorite cuisine, would you say?
Well, that's an unfair question, to be honest, because first of all, I love food. Food for me is more than just nutrition. Food for me gives them possibility for people to sit together, to connect with each other, to create the atmosphere and vibe, to bring friendship and family. So there's several kind of glues that connects people, and food is one of them. Football is another, and love is the other. So, yeah. So for me, I love food wherever it's from, but Persian food is something I grew up with. I was lucky to have two mothers, a real mother and a stepmother, and they were both phenomenal cooks. They were both educators. One was a teacher, principal. The other one was dentist. So I've been fortunate that I've had that kind of mothers that cooked for me and taught me about cuisines. And what is my favorite Persian food? I think all different dishes I like, but tadik has to be always there. And Ghorme sabzi has to be there. Khoresht badamjun has to be there. All the various kebabs have to be there. So it's difficult to say one or the other. I can say Chinese food in America or Canada is very different than Chinese food in Shijiazhuang or Beijing. Chinese food in China is amazing. And I hope that everyone can experience that. Same with Japanese food. Everywhere you go, if you go to a Japanese restaurant in LA, it's very different than in Tokyo or Shijiazhuang. Oh, sorry, in Shizuoka. So, yeah, food is food. It's something that you have to really, in my opinion, try to taste and go for the flavors of the country and hopefully the love of the cook that he put in his dish.
Yeah, and then Said Ranjbar on Instagram asks, I love his hairstyle. What hair products does he use? And who is your barber in Vancouver?
Well, that's, I think hair is all about genetics, right? It's genetics, it's nutrition, it's exercise and health and lifestyle. So I was lucky that I have a full head of hair. I have several different people that cut my hair. I have a Persian hairstylist. I had a Brazilian guy cut my hair one time, and I had an Irish guy cut my hair. So sometimes it's about how much time do I have? Where's the barber? I go there, and to be honest, I don't put as much time and energy as people think in my hair. I just wash it, put a little bit of gel and comb, and that's it. So it's pretty much genetic.
The next question comes from, I'll read it here because it's a pretty big question, at Webster Karoon on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it. And you kind of dove into this. Why do Iranian players seem to always have psychological issues at the last moment? They get right to the edge of making it to the next World Cup round or winning the Asian Cup, as we've seen in previous Asian Cups against Qatar and in 2018 against Portugal, but never quite there. This is seen across different coaches, players, and tournaments. And have you observed Iranians being more susceptible to this compared to the other groups that you have coached?
I think it's a great question. I think we see it when Iranians are in individual sports, they tend to be more successful because every time you add another member into a group, then you create different group dynamics. And I think when you see the Iranians in wrestling, when you see them in karate, taekwondo, in a lot of individual sports, we are top. We are winning goals. We are going all the way to the end. But when you put even a basketball team together, you have less members. So then the group dynamics is a little bit less complex. When you put a football team together, you got basically 23 players. Then you have a staff, and then they go to tournaments and have to live together day in and day out. Then a lot of the group dynamic becomes challenging. I think that's one factor. The other factor, I believe, that in Iran is life is so busy. There's so much going on. In even you look at you go to an Iranian house, they have bananas and every fruit you can imagine. They have every nut sitting there, from gas and all the hors d'oeuvres. Then when you see it at the table of it's not just one dish, it's 5 different dishes, 4 different salads. It's not just one dessert, there's so many desserts. So we're not focused, to be honest. We have a hard time to just be concentrated on one task at a time. And I think these are some of the factors that stops us from achieving big success because, in my opinion, group dynamics, being a team, being united as a group, going from A to Z, starting a project from day one to the end, and combine that with concentration, individual and collective concentration towards the same strategy is a challenge for us. And I also think discipline. We live in a very undisciplined country. Iran is a lot of undiscipline that goes on. People aren't following the certain parameters and staying in their own lanes, doing what they need to do. Where, for example, in Japan, it's extremely organized, extremely disciplined. Everybody's like a Shinkansen following a certain program. Life is just like a massive spreadsheet, right? Everyone's staying there. And I think there's somewhere in the middle is the right way to go, in my opinion. You have organization, but you also have creativity and allowing individuals to express themselves. And we see in all those societies different pushbacks, different groups pushing back. Japanese children are tying their hair, they're putting rings in their nose, they want to rebel against the norm. And then Iranians are all over the place. So that's that's basically what has been my experience, and I'm not sure if it's the accurate one, but it's been my personal experience.
Alrighty, I think I have one more question for you coming from Throwback Iranian Football at Tariq_foot. Okay, I butchered this. Over on Twitter. His question was, which job was more difficult and made you feel more pressure? Persepolis or the Iranian national team?
I think every job, I'll just give first a general response to the question. I think every job has different challenges. Probably at this moment, I find the Vancouver FC challenge one of the biggest challenges of my life because I'm trying to create something from ground zero. Persepolis versus Iranian national team. Persepolis was a lot easier for me because I felt that I had the support of the people behind me. I had such an enormous the fan base of Persepolis. They were so behind me. They gave me so much love, energy, and motivation. It made it much easier. Even though the 6 points was deducted, I felt like we can achieve it together because I felt there was an enormous energy and source of love behind me. The Iranian national team was more difficult because of all the political challenges that Iran faced at that moment when I was the manager of the team. And I think you feel very lonely. You feel like, how am I going to manage this? How am I going to lead this? How am I going to take this team to where it needs to go without that support?
Yeah, I think that's it. Afshin, thank you so much again for joining us today. It was an honor for you to be. Any final words you want to send before you say goodbye?
Well, first of all, I want to thank all three of you for being so patient with my long answers, but because this interview meant a lot to me, as the fact that you guys taken the time to show interest in my career and where I've been and what I've done. So I really want to humbly thank you for that. Secondly, I want to send my heart to all the fans in Asia. I miss you.
Yeah. So again, thank you everyone for watching or listening. If you're on Apple Music, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify, make sure to like, make sure to follow us on all platforms, and see you guys next time. Goodbye.